Hey everybody, it's JMan105 coming at you with another hobby related video, and I'm in front of the camera, at least for a little bit. And this is going to be more of an opinion piece on different hobbies, pros and cons and such. I've always been asked to give opinions and maybe make an opinion video on hobbies rather than a how-to or an explanation video, so I'm going to do that today. So, without further ado, I'm going to go back to what you normally see from me, which is desk and other things, and I'm going to go over some different hobbies, especially the ones that I'm into, and I'm going to give you pros and cons and honest thoughts about them. And I'm going to start with model rocketry, only because my rocket table is right there. And I would say out of most hobbies, model rocketry is relatively inexpensive to get into. The pros would be it's a lot of fun. You can learn a lot through the construction of rockets, whether you buy a kit from a hobby store or make your own. You get to watch the rocket go way up in the sky and pretend you're going into space. Especially if you're a big fan of space and astronomy, it could be a big plus. And it gets you outside. So there's a lot of pros in this case. And once you become more experienced with rocketry, you tend to design your own rockets and come up with even greater things. You have a greater understanding of the mechanics of rocketry. As far as cons go, I don't mind the length of time it takes to build certain rockets. Some people do. I've heard that from a couple people that were either in the hobby a short time or didn't get into it. And as with a lot of hobbies, costs are starting to mount. And this is more in terms of if you want to buy a rocket kit from a hobby store, like a couple of these, or if you want to build your own, not so much. But it's also the fuel. Fuel rods, you used to be able to get package of 3 C or D or E engines for less than $10. Now you're looking at about $20, $24 for those same 3-packs. So if you want to have a launch party weekend and do many launches, it's going to cost you through the nose just to send them up. But in terms of pros versus cons, this probably has the least amount of cons of most hobbies. Moving along, I'm going to get to RC vehicles, and this is amped up for me in the last couple of years because, as you know, I've gotten into RC crawlers, more specifically the Axial SCX-24s, which is a 1/24th scale truck. I do live in an apartment, as you know, and I don't have a lot of space for things, so the SCX-24s were natural for me to get into. I had gone to a couple RC parties at friends' houses that had them, and I was hooked. In terms of pros and cons, the pros are RCs are a lot of fun. And it is really cool driving around a scale model of a vehicle that you might enjoy in real life. And it also gets you outside. RCs are fun for all ages. There's really no nitty-gritty with RCs in terms of a lot of them are ready to run out of the box. You just pop the batteries in and go. In terms of cons, RCs really have a big con in price. A 1/10 scale, for example, costs you $700 to $800 plus tax, and that's before you do anything to it. I really wanted to get a 10th scale first, but the cost didn't make sense, so I went with the 24th scale. These are around $180 to $210 plus tax. Then you have, of course, your upgrades. I have upgraded wheels and shocks and everything on this. I have tools in the bottom. You can't really see it. Tools and accessories and extra batteries. I also went and bought these Rubbermaid storage totes, probably the least expensive part of the hobby, but still, the costs do mount from RCs. I bought my Bronco brand new, and the second one, which is in the tub, which is my Gladiator, I bought it used off of a friend of mine, so it kind of brought the cost down on my second truck. But whether or not you want to do upgrades on your trucks or add to them, and plus you're going to keep going through AA batteries ever so often, so cost is definitely a factor in RCs. And in a lot of cases with RC vehicles, when the companies that make them come out with new vehicles and they get rid of some of the older vehicles, the parts for the older vehicles get harder and harder to find. So go with a good name brand like Axial or Traxxas. That way you can have a lot of aftermarket support, companies like Injora. For the next one, I'm going to take you over to this shelf only because, as you know, my model railroad is gone. This is what's left of it right now, aside from The bulk of the railroad is packed up in a Rubbermaid storage container, a big one in my storage closet. Model railroads take a lot of supplies, a lot of time, a lot of patience. Most of the supplies on a couple of these shelves were bought specifically for the model railroad. Let me tell you, when I had the model railroad here, it was amazing. And the pros to a model railroad is you are expressing yourself in a way you never thought you would. It took me 12 years to create everything I wanted to create on that model railroad that used to sit in that corner of this room. It's very rewarding to see a highly detailed model railroad complete with buildings, people, trees, plants, cars, trucks, trains, everything. And even a lot of scratch-built things I came up with myself. It's a very, very, very rewarding experience. It's also known as a lifetime hobby because it takes a lot of your time. That being said, it does have cons as well. The prices to get into model railroading now. Used to be able to get a starter train for $50, complete with a length of track and a few train cars and one locomotive. You're looking at $200-300 now to get into the hobby. Then you have to make sure you have space. If you're only doing a tabletop display, which is a 4x8, you need plywood, you need supplies. You need to prop it up so you can run wiring. You're going to be buying a shit ton of supplies. Just about everything you can think of. Paints, modeling supplies, plaster, electronics, everything. If you are building something that's the size of the room, you're going to need a lot of wood to build bench work. You're going to spend a lot of time doing designs and schematics, and it just gets nuts. Even for my old 4x8 layout, the amount of time I spent designing it in the beginning and then working on it was ridiculous. There you have it. That's all I have to say on those 3 hobbies right now. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future videos. If you haven't already, please join the Hobby Lounge on Discord for more hobby-related content. Have a great day, everybody.